The NFT hype is taking over the world right now, and the person who predicted it on our podcast in March is back on the show. We're welcoming Andrew Steinwold, who's going to give us an update on his NFT thesis. He shares actionable information on exactly what he would do right now with a 10K portfolio, a 100K portfolio, and even a $1 million portfolio. He's the founder of one of the world's first NFT-focused funds and also hosts the Zima Red podcast and newsletter. If you want my channel to blow up like the NFT space, don't forget to like and subscribe below. And as always, to stay one with the crypto markets, do not forget to sign up to the Market Meditations newsletter. You get 6 free newsletters a week. There is nothing to lose. Go ahead, do it right now. Meditators, it was only a few months ago that we had Andrew Steinwold come onto the podcast and give us one of the most fleshed out NFT theses I have ever heard. And now, the NFT space has absolutely exploded. Assets are going wild. Interest is coming over from pretty much everywhere. You can't log on to Twitter without seeing the word NFT. Andrew, congratulations. You were right. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me again. I really appreciate it. And yeah, from our last conversation back in March 21, the space has really accelerated to levels that it's the linear growth is no longer like how it was in 2019, 2020. It's now kind of more of an exponential growth. Just to give like a really quick example, when I first started in the NFT markets, the monthly trade volume was around $1 million per month total, right? And a great month, like a huge month, would be $2 million in trade volume, and, a doubling, right? So that was huge. And just in this month alone, in just August, and it's August 18th, so we're not even fully done with August. The trade volume on OpenSea, which is just one NFT platform marketplace, exceeded $1 billion. So to go from $1 to $2 million per month to now $1 billion in less than a month at one marketplace it's just really, really crazy.
It feels like 2017 crypto. I mean, even 2021 crypto can't keep up with what's been happening with the NFT space. Was there a trigger for this? Do you have any idea why it suddenly started going wild?
Yeah, so I think that because crypto, I've been deep into crypto for a number of years. First got involved in 2013, and then 2017 went full time. And trying to convince people on crypto is quite difficult because you're talking about money and esoteric concepts like people are saying digital gold and like staking and proof of work and stuff like that, and it's weird and confusing. But if you tell them, hey, there's video games, there's collectibles, there's art, people understand that right away. And I think that a big factor was the approachability, or like the human factor around NFTs, because if you look at crypto, it's mainly a pure financial game where the objective is to make money, which I think is totally fine, like that's great. But when you look at NFTs, of course, making money is a big part of it, but also there's emotional components, there's social components, there's status components, and these human factors are really what's driving a lot of the kind of innovation and behaviors inside the NFT space. So yeah, I see them as like, I call NFTs like monetizable memes, because you're able to have like a meme that has a financial component to it, and when you have that, it can spread like wildfire. And probably the best example was the 𝐉𝐨 5000 piece that was bought for $69 million. That is like a great example of a piece of digital art that went viral completely over the internet and was on CNN, CNBC. It was everywhere. So I think that the human component is really what's driving a lot of the kind of volumes in the NFT space.
That makes sense. Definitely a lot more approachable, and I've seen a lot of people push the idea that the NFT space is going to be bigger than crypto possibly could be, and we can discuss that more later. But I really wanted to start off, especially for the listeners who've tuned back in from our previous podcast. Last time, you gave a really fleshed out thesis. You broke down the space into collectibles, game assets, virtual land, crypto art, and then your other category. Has this thesis evolved as the space has matured during the last few months? How do you view the space differently now than how you did back then?
Yeah, okay, so our broad thesis, which is very high level and purposely very broad, is that NFTs enable a metaverse to form because they give users property rights in the digital world. Because no one wants to spend a lot of time, money, and effort into their digital lives if they can't own their stuff, right? It's kind of like, I liken it to, communism versus capitalism. Like if you have the option to live in a communist country where you can't, you live and work and exist, but you can't like build wealth, that's not super appealing. But if you can live and work and build wealth in the capitalist system, that's much more appealing, and you want to probably spend your time there. And so, yeah, that is the broad thesis. And then those kind of market breakdowns from collectibles, game assets, virtual land, art, etc., and then other, that has dramatically expanded. I think that what we're seeing now is there's a lot of kind of financial contracts that are being NFTs are being used for as financial contracts. There's like insurance protocols. There are people are kind of toying with the idea of property titles as NFTs. There are all sorts of really cool things that I want to tell you more about, but it's kind of still not super public. But yeah, I think that the financial markets, NFTs are going to eat those as well, because it's way more efficient to utilize an NFT as kind of the contract, if you will, for a lot of these assets. So that's in the financial side of the market. And the reason that we saw NFTs first eat the markets of collectibles, game assets, and art, and I guess virtual land, we'll consider that gaming, is because these markets are unregulated, and there's no pre-existing power structures that are kind of stifling innovation. When you have total openness to innovation, then people can innovate at this pace of software, which is like daily, right? So that's why NFTs ate those markets first. But what we're going to see is that NFTs will also eat the financial market. So that's when NFTs turn into a multi-billion-dollar potential, and hundreds of billion-dollar potential. Because if you look at art, $65 billion a year, gaming, more than $100 billion a year. Collectibles are also over $100 billion a year. So that's when collectibles go from multi-$100 billion a year market to multi-trillion-dollar a year market when they kind of go to these royalties, insurance, property titles, etc. The more financial side of the market. And I just actually recently saw that just today, this morning, there's someone who basically bought IP for some sort of like genetic. I didn't really. It was a very brief kind of overview on Twitter, but some sort of genetic IP in some kind of laboratory. I don't even really understand it to be honest, but basically they bought that as an NFT. So that IP is now an NFT. It's like a legal code that says like, okay, this company or entity owns this IP, and they sent it, or I guess a DAO bought it. But actually, let's see if I can pull it up. It was all about longevity or something like that. Let's see. Yeah. Anyways, I think that is an extremely interesting concept that I didn't even really think about too much. Was being able to. I thought NFTs were going to eat the IP markets, but also I think that seeing it happen so soon was shocking, and then also the idea that a DAO could own IP is very, very interesting, because when it's an NFT, it can easily be transferred to ownership of a DAO, and then that creates dynamics that I can't even fathom right now. So we're seeing the pace of innovation just accelerate. Again, at a non-linear scale, it's now an exponential scale.
And that's a lot of potential points to expand upon there from what you said. The one that really caught my interest was you said that the NFT market is way more efficient at doing what the financial markets are currently doing. Could you expand upon that a bit? In what ways would they be more efficient than what crypto currently does?
Yeah. Okay. So to give a very basic example of like property titles. So I bought my first condo ever recently, and I went down to the Chicago property title office, and I had to fill out like just a huge amount of paperwork and just sign here, and then I don't even know really what goes on their backside, but they do some stuff, and then they're like, okay, you now are the owner of this property after like 5 days or whatever. And what my thought process was, I can't believe that this is a system in 2021, right? Apparently, and I was talking to someone in I think San Francisco, and apparently it's all digitized, so like that's way better. But it's like DocuSign. So the actual property title, let's say condo one, whatever, condo one could just be transferred from the previous owner to Andrew, and then when I receive it, it's on this global ledger that everyone can see, and they say, okay, cool, Andrew owns condo one, and so that whole property title process and showing ownership would be simplified by simply transferring over a token that represented the ownership of that asset. Of course, there's all these issues with like, what if my MetaMask gets hacked and like all these other kind of side issues, but just the idea that you're able to bake in all the information within that NFT, and then transfer it over, and then it does all the kind of auditing and kind of security for you based on being on a blockchain. That efficiency gain that you get from that is just, how can you beat that, right? Even the best DocuSign can't beat that, because there's still a whole bunch of, okay, we got to put it in the records that Andrew owns condo 1 in Chicago and like spread it out. But with this, it's immediate and instant. So that is a very basic example that I think is very, very exciting, and I do believe that NFTs will eventually reach that type of those types of markets. But it's just going to take time, because those are regulated industries with existing kind of power structures that probably don't want a lot of innovation there, especially in a place like Chicago.
It seems like there's so many possibilities and so much potential that, I mean, are you planning on keeping up to date and in touch with every single NFT development there's going to be, or do you think it's going to be more productive and efficient to start specializing in different areas?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So we are, focused on our domain expertise right now. For example, I don't even know about the IP kind of medical thing that I mentioned before, but that's something I do want to research. But we have plans as a firm to kind of expand our knowledge base. I can't go into too much detail, but that's the overall. That's basically what I can say. We're sticking with what we know now, but in the future we want to expand to things that we do not know and become experts in those realms as well.
So what are your strongest areas right now where you'd say you have the most expertise?
So yeah, I would say it's those 4 previous markets mentioned. It's collectibles, virtual land, gaming assets, and art. I think that those markets themselves are multi-$100 billion opportunities. So those are very large and will continue to be even larger going forward. But yeah, like even myself, it's hard to keep up with like, I don't know everything that's going on in the art world. I can't tell you what happened in CryptoVoxels today. Whereas in 2019, 2020, I was able to say, oh yeah, this specific thing happened in CryptoVoxels yesterday, right? And now the bandwidth is limited, so we're going to need to kind of expand and get people to basically bring people on to help us with the collecting all the knowledge and figuring out exactly what's going on in these worlds and kind of virtual realms at all times.
Oh, good to see you expanding with the industry. Now, circling back to the journey from March over to now, are you happy with how you were positioned back then? And if you could go back in time now, how would you have positioned yourself better with the information you had at that time, not with a crystal ball where you could see the future?
Oh, okay. So I do believe that a lot of life is luck. And we were very lucky to basically have kind of officially launched our first fund vehicle in January of this year, January 2021. Because before that, in 2019, we launched with personal capital. So it was just which is great, but it's your check sizes into different assets are much smaller. Therefore, the potential gains are smaller. But yeah, the timing was extremely lucky. But I also think that in some sense you do kind of make your luck. Like we position ourselves for that. But the timing of that fund was just like very very great, and not even on purpose. So if I could go back and kind of change things with what I know now, is that the question?
Yes. How did you position yourself well, and how did you not position yourself well with the intent that you had?
Yeah. So I think that I think I should have been more aggressive. I think that's probably it. Because when you have conviction on something, that's one thing I keep having to remind myself. I'll be so into a project, an asset, whatever, and I'll have so much conviction in it, and I'll put a portion of the portfolio in it. But in reality, if you feel as strongly as I do about certain things, it's like, well, you should be really kind of going in a much heavier size. And I guess it's because of in the past, because we had a crypto fund in 2017, we still have that fund, but it's mainly a family and friends vehicle now. Being in the markets for so long, it teaches you to be careful, especially in crypto markets where things can swing wildly either way. And we've made 100,000 mistakes, right? And so I'm always thinking about the potential downside and the speed at which the downside usually comes. And so that's why probably I've been less or more cautious. But in reality, like if you know if you do have the conviction, you've done the research and you've done the diligence, then you should just kind of you should really kind of stick to your guns essentially. So that's broadly what I should have done better. If I had my knowledge that I have today.
Actionably, just to break that down a little bit, you just would invest more heavily when you have conviction. Now, that's a very high level comment. Like, how would you get into the micro of that? What can we actionably use from that? What does it mean to have high conviction? When is it actually high conviction? How do you dissect feelings from actual fact and information?
Yeah, so to give a very I purposely kept it quite broad, but in order to give a specific example, CryptoPunks, right? Like I still am extremely excited about CryptoPunks. They have, they're a collectible asset, and the value driver for collectibles is all about narrative, right? And so, CryptoPunks have one of the best stories inside the kind of the NFT ecosystem, and so I understood that quite early on, and I should have just bought as many CryptoPunks as possible, right? Like very simply, you should, it's an amazing asset. It's going to increase in value over time based off XYZ. Therefore, you should just buy a lot of CryptoPunks. That's a very simplistic kind of way to put it, but that's kind of the mindset. Like we bought a lot, but we didn't really, it wasn't like half the fund or anything like that, right? So,
would you have done it with half the fund? Do you think that?
So that's the thing. It's tough to say in hindsight. Sitting here now, I'm like, oh, of course I would have done it. But in reality, like, would I have? Like, probably not, right? And I didn't. So, and it goes back to kind of being wary and always being kind of more cautious. Which, when you're in an asset class, so there's two sides of it. When you're convicted, you should double down. But also, when you're in a market like this where the volatility is so high, you have to be careful, and especially because I'm not dealing with just my own capital. I'm dealing with partner capital. So I have to be, I have to realize, hey, I can't just ape into every project. I have to do research, due diligence, and then kind of deploy accordingly. I can't. It's on my personal book. That's a very kind of high level answer, kind of a wishy-washy answer, and then a specific answer about the punks.
So Andrew, you said you're always cautious of potential downside, even though you have to double down and bet with conviction. Right now, the market, I mean, you gave the numbers yourself. You said from 2 million to 2 billion, 1 billion, was it?
Yeah, it was 1 billion on OpenSea. So the total, it's really hard to estimate because the market's so fragmented, but yeah, at least 1 billion.
So is any part of you screaming now might be a time to pull back and be a little bit careful? Is the market overheated? Have you seen signs of that? How do you feel about the current market?
So overall, I think it's validation from our thesis and our thoughts previously. So definitely not really thinking in terms of kind of being nervous. I do think that NFT markets they're highly cyclical, and they're kind of bubbly within their sector. So meaning that, in summer of 2020, virtual land was all the rage. The narrative within the Twitter sphere was Ready Player One, Metaverse, etc. And so people were jumping in there. And then after, in the fall of 2020, it became play to earn. So Axie's had a really big jump. And then after that, let's say like winter of 2020 and early 2021, it was like collectibles and art. And so you saw a lot of volume there. And then, coming into 2021, I'd say like spring, art started to decline significantly. And then we had, kind of the collectibles. And then, of course, Axie, once they launched Ronin, which is our sidechain, that's when kind of it was play to earn and then collectibles. And then now we're still kind of in the play to earn era and then the collectible era. And what we're seeing now is that there are a lot of PFP projects. They're like profile picture projects, or what do we call them? And they're these usually cute little like animals, and they'll be called like cool cats or like pudgy penguins or whatever. And people launch them and people collect them, and it's fun. It's just like a fun, almost like trading card type of activity. And I think that people are getting really excited about this, which is great, and it's bringing more people in. But in terms of the long-term prospects of a lot of these projects, I'm unsure. And but I do think that the volume and the trading is fine and it's normal for people to, jump in, have fun, make money, or try to make money and maybe lose some money. But it's I think that that's a normal part of any new market. But again, this era will last for X period of time. I can't determine that. I have no idea. And the narrative will switch. It'll switch to, it'll maybe go back to art or go to virtual land, or maybe it'll go to like the IP, like, that like medical stuff that we were talking about. And I wish there was like some sentiment, kind of some product or kind of software that could ingest the sentiment from Twitter and spit out like the narrative is this, because then I could like position myself. But one thing that we do, and then one thing that we've always done, is not chase narratives. We do our research, and then we dive into a project, and we'll acquire a position, and we don't usually go into whatever the current narrative is, whatever's hot at that time. That's not what we're going after. If everyone's looking at gaming and art, we're over here and looking at collectibles and whatever. It really just depends. And so, yeah, I think overall, it's again pretty crazy to see the volumes. A lot of it is right now is people excited, having fun and messing around, which I think is great. But I still I'm looking forward to kind of the long term, really exciting stuff that's being built. Which by the way, night and day difference comparative to 2019, 2020. The people and the products and the projects and protocols, etc., that are building right now and being built it's crazy. It is the types of people especially are it'll be an expert in gaming, AAA gaming, they're building something. It'll be an expert in arts, they're building something. It'll be collectibles, marketplace, etc. It's really cool to see such a diverse group of experts come together in one ecosystem and start building awesome products and projects for our space.
I hope it continues like that, because as much as I love crypto, and crypto behaves pretty similarly in a way, narratives pick up, they get hot, and then if you just I find it's less important to be positioned before the narrative. It's actually when you spot the narrative, then it just jumps from project to project. It was the same in 2017, same in 2020. Exchange tokens suddenly become a narrative, and then you just got to hop from exchange token to exchange token. The next Ethereum, ETH killers become a narrative. Solana becomes a narrative. It always happens, and you can play it very similarly. And it depends on your trading style. A lot of people are great at catching trends and flipping them. Like, people made fortunes off CryptoPunk. As soon as they saw Gary V buy, I saw people wipe floors instantly. And where I wanted to go was what you said about collectibles, that you think a lot of the projects that are coming out now are going to fail. With CryptoPunks, it's pretty easy, at least for me, to form a thesis. These are one of the first ever collectibles. If collectibles become a thing, it's hard to imagine a world where these don't continue rising in value. Super easy. With the case of CryptoPunks, do you think if someone was looking to build a position, now is a good time, despite the hype, or should they wait for the eyes to go elsewhere and then take that opportunity to come into CryptoPunks if they're a long-term player? And then a follow-up question to this CryptoPunk specific one is, what do you think is going to separate a collectible project which you want to invest in and hold long-term that's coming out right now versus one that you just ignore because you don't have enough conviction?
Okay, so I think that the projects that we're seeing now, the PFPs that we're seeing now, I don't necessarily think that they're all going to fail. I think that it's harder for myself to get long-term conviction that they will be something special going forward, because so each one of these markets, collectibles, game assets, etc., they all have different value drivers, and the value drivers for collectibles is story, narrative, and CryptoPunks, as we mentioned before, have the best story, have one of the best narratives, and so yeah, it makes sense for that value will in theory continue to increase to those assets. This is pending macro traditional finance markets continue to perform how they're performing, and the Fed keeps printing unlimited money, and then the crypto markets also continue to perform. If crypto has a downturn, or if traditional finance, if the traditional markets, if there's a downturn there, I would expect to see drops in prices of NFTs across the board. So so yeah, it's for the new PFP projects, it's tough for me to, first of all, keep up. There's so many of these things, it's crazy. But second of all, yeah, when you're diving into one, it's really the stories are built over time, right? You can't have you need kind of a history and kind of a framework, a structure to build off of. So if I just launched this something today, and let's pretend I was not someone who was known whatsoever in the NFT ecosystem, and just launched, I don't know, Happy Dogs, whatever, Happy Dogs project. People would, there's no history that they can point to and say, oh, Andrew's this, like, we don't even know who Andrew is. He just launched Happy Dogs. Like, why is this going to retain value? Sure, it's like cool cartoony dogs, but we don't really understand it. But if I start adding some stories and points to it, like, oh, there's different levels of rarity, and there's they give you access to our special Discord or whatever, right? That's some structure that people can kind of latch onto and build off of, create some mental frameworks to start, okay, I can see how this can maybe have some value. And Andrew seems like he's pretty active on Twitter. Maybe he can start building up a good community, and you can kind of build off of that. So it's very, very high risk, and you're kind of dependent on that story and narrative latching on to the broader community. But for something like a known entity, like if who's a good example? Like, let's say Matt Cain. If Matt Cain, the incredible artist, if he launches a crypto collectible project, like a PFP project, then right away you're like, okay, well, let's check this out, because he's an incredible artist. He's a great reputation in the ecosystem. He's got a great brand, etc. And then when you add in those rarity traits and the kind of differing levels of or different asset types, plus the maybe the functionality, like the access or whatever, then you can start to kind of build that more and much. You can develop a thesis with much more conviction comparative to something newer and without less structure. So it's again not a great answer, but it's in this space, especially with collectibles, the value is so subjective, right? If it's something like a game asset, the value is much. It's all about utility, and so you can kind of say, okay, well, your sword does 10 damage, therefore you're able to kill these many monsters per day and earn these many tokens, and you can sell those tokens for this, right? So for collectibles specifically, the value is highly subjective and again based off of narrative, so it's tough.
I do really appreciate your modesty, acknowledging a bit of luck, even though you had such a fleshed out, incredible thesis as to why you're here. You say your answers are wishy-washy, but that was a very detailed breakdown of how to judge and assess whether or not a collectible is going to do well, and I think people will benefit loads from it. I want to re-ask the specific question on CryptoPunks, because it gives a very good gauge as to where the collectible markets is right now in your eyes. Is it like, as a binary, is now a positive expected value time to sweep the floors of CryptoPunks, in your opinion?
In my opinion, what's your time horizon?
5 to 10 years. Long-term investor.
In my opinion, yes. Obviously I'm very biased considering I'm a crypto nerd, I'm an NFT nerd, right? So there's those factors. But yeah, no, you just have to look at the story, the narrative. Will CryptoPunks, which are considered one of the first, are considered one of the first NFTs on Ethereum, are they going to be more important going forward? And I would say yes. And also it's essentially a play on Ethereum. If you think NFTs on Ethereum are going to get bigger in 5 to 10 years, then that's something that you want to get exposure to. If you think that all activity is going to move to Solana, for whatever reasons, then probably maybe CryptoPunks aren't the best long-term play. Maybe you should buy whatever the CryptoPunks on Solana might be.
So do you have any strong thoughts on that, actually, whether they're going to move away from Ethereum?
Yeah, so I don't think that the CryptoPunks that we know of today, those are not going to move to a new chain, because they kind of already exist on Ethereum. But in terms of what we're seeing in terms of new chains, there's a lot more fragmentation. So before it was mainly just Ethereum, and now there's Ethereum, Wax, Flow, Polkadot, Tezos. They're just like so many different chains, right? Solana, and so I think that going forward, we'll continue to see more fragmentation, and the markets expand on these different communities will launch their own NFT projects and launch their own marketplaces, etc. And I think that that's good. And I think that that's because competition breeds innovation, and so if the new Solana OpenSea or whatever starts just doing very well, then OpenSea on the Ethereum, actually OpenSea is chain agnostic, so maybe that's not the best example, but let's pretend there was like an OpenSea Ethereum. They'll look at Solana and say, okay, how do we compete? And then they'll start competing, and it'll be better user experience and hopefully better fees for the users, right? So I think that, yeah, there's going to be a lot more fragmentation. And I think that over time, people will build, like there's a protocol called Wormhole, which actually is meant for just like interoperability of these different chains. What like it basically bridges all of them together, which is really, really exciting. So there'll be things like that will connect all these kind of different chains together. And then that's kind of when you start to get more of a refined metaverse. Because right now the metaverse is kind of like this early spider web where it's kind of like, not super strong and kind of slowly expanding. But then when you have stuff like that connecting all the pieces together, you're going to have this really crazy cool ecosystem where everyone on Earth can just access this digital environment that people can like live, work, and play in.
I have a very similar view where I'm just a huge fan of letting the market decide. The more competition, the better, as well as your analogy with the loose spider web. That just means opportunity. That means opportunity for people looking to enter the space, people who can find the best way to make the most connections in that spider web. That's opportunity to outperform and grow with this exciting industry. We've been pretty much entirely focused on collectibles, and one of the ones which I'm most excited about and our community is crazy excited about recently is NFT gaming. I know you spoke to Bryce not too long ago. I've been in contact with him as well. He listened to our first podcast, played Axie Infinity, and turned a debt of $30,000 to $1 million in profit in 3 months, and this was before the Axie pump, so I'm sure he's doing fantastically well right now. On a personal level, that made me so happy. That filled me with so much joy that we managed to have that sort of small impact in the direction of that person's life that ended up going in a really positive direction.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Bryce is, so I met him, I'd say a month or two ago, and he is such a great person, which I'm really happy for, because he ended up being kind of the ambassador for crypto gaming. I mean, right now it's mainly Axie, but he's going to become like there's like Shroud, who's like the first person shooter kind of guy, and then you have Ninja, who's like the Fortnite guy. Like Bryce is going to probably be the NFT gaming or crypto gaming guy, right? Or guy or gal, doesn't matter, right? And I think that we're really lucky that he just so happens, from what I can tell, to be a great person. So because you want a great ambassador like that to encourage more people to kind of jump in and get involved and stuff like that. So when he told me that he first heard about kind of Axie from our conversation, I was blown away, and it was super. It makes me think about oh my gosh, like what else can, like, who else can we inspire to do awesome things in this space, and it makes me super pumped. So. He's great.
I'm glad you feel the same way. Just these conversations plant the right seeds, and hopefully someone gets something beneficial and takes initiative. Because Bryce was super grateful and said, "Hey, I owe so much to you," and I know that's just his humble personality. But how many people listened to that podcast? How many people actually took action and turn that into that? It's a minute effect. These are just tiny seeds that may someday, through conviction and hard work from people, result in something. So I don't know, anyone listening to this podcast, if anything sounds interesting, don't be afraid to dive down that rabbit hole, and it could potentially change your life. So NFT gaming, would you say it's the space you're most excited about, or do you love them all equally?
Yeah, so I mean, there's so many different. So like art, for example, I think digital art is incredible. Like being able for any artist in the world to create art and sell to anyone in the world, that's opening up creativity for the global audience, right? That's incredible. Then you look at collectibles, like being able to nerd out with fellow collectible enthusiasts. Like if I love Pokemon, the best thing about Pokemon is meeting you who also loves Pokemon, and we can battle each other and talk to each other and have that social bond. A virtual land, of virtual worlds. That to me is the next generation social media, because you go in there, there's no objective. You can you get your profile, which is like your piece of land, and suddenly when you own that, you're incentivized. It's almost like you're owning a piece of Facebook, right? You're incentivized for the network to grow, and you're happy that to add content to your piece of land, which is like your profile, and you can build an e-commerce store, you can build a gallery, you can build a house, whatever you want. And there's no objective. Your objective is to make friends, go to attend meetups in the world, and just hang out, right? So that to me is next generation social media. Then we look at gaming. Gaming is like this whole other beast where first of all, gaming is fun, right? So that's great. Like you get to enjoy and have fun with your life, which is great. But what's exciting about this is that it's the play to earn concept, and I think one thing that people are realizing is that memes are so important and powerful, and these short mottos where it explains right away, like, what is this thing? You see play to earn, you're like, wait a second, I can play a video game and earn money? Like, that's awesome. So I think that's super, super exciting. And what play to earn has done is it's opened up, again, it's like the Trojan horse to crypto mass adoption. It's like you play a video game and suddenly you're introduced to cryptocurrency. Like, oh, what is this stuff? And then you start researching that. And then when you're onboarded in the ecosystem, then you're like, wait a second, there's this art stuff over here. There's this collectible stuff. I'm going to go check that out. And you kind of seep your way through. And then on top of that, I was talking to Alexander. I had him on my podcast, which I'm going to release hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But Alexander, who's one of the co-founders of 𝐏𝐸𝐬𝐧, and he said, listen, we made a game where people can earn money. Like, that is very, very appealing because it's fun and you can earn money, right? And there's the added benefits of this insane community at 𝐏𝐸𝐬𝐧 and all this great stuff. But he also said, we are like a financial services company, right? So we're not just a video game that people love. We're this financial services company because people are entering. Like he said, a lot of people's first bank accounts is through 𝐏𝐸𝐬𝐧. And when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that is crazy. And you're able to get these cute little creatures, battle, earn some money through these smooth love potions that are dropping, and then you're able to maybe go take that and get a loan or go do some DeFi yield stuff or whatever, right? You're able to just dive deeper in the ecosystem and explore that whole opportunity. And what it's doing is it's giving people worldwide access to this global, uncensorable 24/7 financial system. Like, that is really, really, really powerful. And one thing that he said that was really interesting was that 𝐏𝐸𝐬𝐧 is opening up the player base of gaming to not just people that want to play video games, which is a lot of people, but to people that want to earn money, which is everybody, right? And so when I look at it like that, I was like, oh my gosh, like it makes me so excited that that like this is, first of all, that this is happening, but second of all, that gaming and fun and community and social, those are gonna be the ways that we bring everyone into crypto. Because since 2013, in 2013, I was like, oh, everyone's gonna be using Bitcoin like a couple of years, and people understand that the Federal Reserve System is actually not quite stable and has a lot of problems. And I thought people would like see the light, but like no one cares, right? And everyone's like, I don't care, like I don't understand like the interest rates or money and stuff like that. But with video games, people are gonna be introduced. They're gonna be like, not tricked, because that's kind of devious, but like they're gonna be introduced to these cool concepts that they don't even have to care about the Fed, but they'll understand. Oh wait, I can send money as easy as sending an email to anyone, anytime in the world, right? And so, it's just like I'm so excited about every sector for sure. But gaming to me is like, of course, is like just really, really blown me away with the potential. And it took me time to talk to these founders to really understand the ramifications, because I had a kind of simplistic view on it that, okay, play to earn, amazing, but when you say play to earn plus have global access to this financial system through gaming, it's like a whole new realm. So yeah, I'm super, super pumped.
The idea keeps maturing for me similarly. I mean, and what you were saying, the idea just matured a little bit more. Most recently, I've been thinking about how this could really help with global inequality, because everyone values fun, everyone values entertainment, and everyone in the world can play the game. And from what we've been seeing happening in the Philippines, it's like people want these assets. There are people who are willing to trade their time for a different price. So suddenly their time becomes worth more, because people on this part of the world that earn more money will value time more, and therefore the in-game assets more. So they can play the game and get paid as if valued on the time over in that part of the world, or at least the gap starts to bridge a little bit. And that's a lot easier than trying to use there's a lot less friction, and I'm not portraying this idea too well because it's not extremely mature, but there's a lot less friction than using an app like Fiverr to try outsource your time, because you just dive into this game world and that's it. You just start playing a video game and that problem gets solved. It's insane for what it could do for the world.
Yeah, I mean, people were talking about crypto gaming introducing like a global minimum wage. Like, that's a crazy, crazy concept that is just even wild to think about. But what I found is really exciting and so cool about this is that once you get kind of in like, let's say you're an Xe scholar and you're playing and blah, blah, blah. Once you start like learning the ropes and you dive deeper, then your entrepreneurial spark, like you start to get, okay, like, you start to think, what could I do? What could I build? What could I add to this ecosystem that's going to create value, not just for myself, but for everyone else? And so, yeah, to have this place, like the internet, like to have this area where people can go and think of an idea and implement that idea via code and just like, hard work, is just crazy. And it's really opening up again, like the global economy truly it's truly globalizing the economy. Because, we say today that we have a globalized economy and everyone trades and stuff like that, which is true, but it's not at a level where it's like instantaneous and you can come up with an idea today, implement it tomorrow, and start kind of having people use your product the next day, right? And that's the level of where we're at. So the pace of innovation is going to be we think it's fast now. It's going to be 10x than what it is today.
Now, before I get too off track from what we're all about at Market Meditations, which is building wealth, and the philosophy behind this and the macro ideas are just too interesting to not dive down at least a little bit. You said NFT gaming is actually, or earn to play, I think, play to earn gaming is one of the most popular right now. And you like to look where people aren't looking. Where aren't people looking right now?
Yeah, so it's funny. I think that I don't want to say, how do I say this? I think that the potential for where we're gonna go is still like undervalued. Like I think that people are like, oh well, 𝐏𝐨𝐬𝐧 already made it. Like, what's the next 𝐏𝐶? And I'm like, 𝐏𝐶 is like 10% into what it's going to accomplish. It's gonna be. I'm not talking about in terms of price. I'm talking about in terms of 𝐏𝐶, the entity, right? 𝐏𝐸𝐼𝐻. And so I think that people are still kind of discounting that, where they're already looking at, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next evolution? It's like, well, we still have so much room to grow within the existing kind of environment that we're in today, and that's not accounting for the 1,000 other incredible things that are being built right now and going to launch in 6 months to a year from now. And so, yeah, I think that when you say like what's next, it's really tough to say with any sort of kind of certainty, because like what's next is like what we're doing now. Like now is like what's next. Like jumping in today is going to be there's going to be just so much more growth going forward that I think that's something that I'm still really looking forward to. Like in terms of like a percentage, I think we're like still less than probably 1% of where NFTs and kind of this metaverse concept are going to grow into. I'd say less than 1% of the way there.
So let's say you were to start from scratch right now. You suddenly have no exposure to NFTs whatsoever. How would you position a 10K portfolio? How would you position a 100K portfolio? And how would you position a $1 million portfolio, all with a long-term horizon?
Oh man, oh my gosh, these are so tough. So this is not financial advice, and I'm just guessing.
You're simply telling us what you would do in this situation.
So if I had $10,000, what would I do? In theory, it's just personal capital, and I'm pretty risk on. So I would probably put it into some emergent token projects that pertain to the NFT sector, just because that's like what I know. And then through that'd be the kind of the 10K portfolio, and then with those hopeful gains, maybe one of them would turn out well, I would deploy into different NFT projects.
So would this be like an early 𝐼𝐶 token? That's what you mean by emerging token projects?
Yeah, or 𝐼𝐶 itself, right? But because it's a smaller capital base, I would probably go higher on the risk curve, and I'd probably go with not the 𝐼𝐶, which is it's still risky, of course. This is also risky, but I'd probably go something that's brand new and very risky. So that's probably what I'd do, and then I'd take any gains, deploy those into different PFP projects. Honestly, I'd probably start trading those PFPs pretty actively. So the kind of the research and the diligence and the stuff that I do now, that would not be. I would just be full on ape mode and degenerate mode, right? That's just like what I would probably personally do. If it was, again, my personal money at $10,000, $100,000. I think again, I'd probably mix it up. I'd probably do half into different NFT projects that I thought were great, And I love virtual land, so it'd probably be in that realm, and then also gaming. And then I probably wouldn't try to flip too many PFPs. It takes a lot of just a lot of brain power to do that. And then the $50,000 remaining, I would probably again put it into the higher risk token projects that relate to NFTs. And then the last was, you said $1 million. So yeah, for $1 million, then I would probably deploy it into just probably NFTs. Just because I feel so tokens, they can kind of sway with the market, right? So even if OpenSea launches a token, let's just pretend, right? OpenSea is a great company doing extremely well, but if Bitcoin and Ethereum are just getting clobbered for whatever reason, then that token can suffer a lot. And so you're kind of at the whim of the broader markets when you're investing in a smaller cap token. But with NFTs, yes, there is some correlation between broader crypto markets for sure, but those human factors, the social, the status, the emotional, these human factors cause people to trade and buy and sell NFTs regardless of market conditions. That is a secret strength. Like, they're not pure monetary assets. And so I would say I would deploy into a whole diverse set of NFTs, the whole gamut: art, collectibles, game assets, virtual land, and I would just keep deploying into those. And it would be a buy and hold strategy, because that's what I prefer. I like to do research, due diligence, go into a project that I have conviction in, and just kind of sit on it and try to support the community from however I can. So that's what I would personally do.
Okay, well, I've got 4 questions I can't wait to ask following up from that. Starting with, I think, something really important you said at the end. What are the best ways to support the communities of the projects you get involved in?
Oh man, yeah. So there's so many different ways. So you become a moderator on a Discord. You could just help with. You could just be on the Discord and help with, and not even be a moderator, and just kind of help with new players entering, or add value to discussions on where the platform should evolve, what they can do better. Just give general advice. I think Discord is like such a incredible tool that allows you to connect with the community and connect with the team, and really just show your value by just essentially just writing down your thoughts, and okay, how could I be helpful? And so that's really cool. And maybe even hosting meetups in virtual worlds about your favorite project or whatever. That's also really cool, and organizing that. So I think that kind of community building is essential. And then what else? I mean, you could start a podcast, you could start a newsletter, you could start there's a great newsletter out there called 𝐍𝐿𝐼𝐻. 𝐍𝐿𝐼𝐻33 is his Twitter. He's got a great newsletter that talks about different, really kind of dives into the more data related aspects of NFTs. That's awesome. My podcast, Zima Red. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
I'm also a big fan.
Thank you. Yeah, I talk to just insane founders on there and learn from them. So that's great. I think it's really, you don't have to. I do these things because, first of all, bandwidth is limited, but second of all, I'm not technical. So I'm not like, if I was technical, I would go and like help build tools and projects and protocols or whatever. That's like that probably the highest impact. But if you're not technical, then just diving in, writing is really important. Podcasts, videos, community building, just these communication and telling people about the project, the ideas, the team, etc. That is super essential, and I feel like we could use more of that. So that's what I personally would be doing, and trying to add value to these projects, through those types of activities.
In crypto, we definitely have a shortage of non-technical people. I wonder if it's almost the other way around in the NFT world, with so many more creatives being involved.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that what's cool about NFTs is that the barrier to launching a project has gone down to zero. So if you want to launch a blockchain back in 2017, you need to be pretty technical and kind of know your way around, coding and whatnot. With NFTs, you could have a cool idea about some PFP or whatever type of project you want to do, and you could launch it yourself. Just like kind of go on OpenSea and kind of mint there and do whatever you want. So the barriers have gone down to basically zero, which I think is amazing and like essential for for people to get so creative and so innovative. So I would say that the NFT space, compared to DeFi, is less technical talent, because the really technical people like to create these crazy protocols and DeFi farms, whatever. But in terms of the creative side, like you can't beat us, right? It's the first time where creatives can really kind of dive into these markets unleash their creativity and actually get paid fairly for what they're doing. So yeah, I think that what we're doing is we're combining the technical and the creative together and creating some really cool and interesting stuff.
Well, I'd love to see it. What emerging game projects are you most excited for? What do you think has the potential to come even close to what Axie's doing right now, whether it be the founder or the great game idea or...
Okay, yeah. So I'm trying to think about what I can and cannot talk about. Okay, so yeah, there's one game called Nine Chronicles. Nine Chronicles is really cool. I think they launched around like, I want to say 10, 11 months ago, like pretty recently. They've been working on it, on the technology and kind of the infrastructure since like 2018, 2019. So it's been in the works for quite some time. And what they've done is they created a totally open source game, right? So it's like the game is totally open source. Anyone, anywhere in the world can start building onto their game, whether it be like items or levels or whatever, right? Monsters, who knows? That to me is a really crazy concept, and I didn't even realize that there had been open source games in the past. So we started researching open source games and figured out, okay, what are the pros and cons of them? How are they defensible? And it turns out that there have been a lot of in the past, but they're really hard to monetize, and they're hard to get at a larger scale, because if you can't monetize, it's hard for you to add them to the team and add more stuff and blah blah blah. And you need that initial you need that initial team to really push and build great content to attract more people to actually build on it. So what's so cool about this project though is that it is they're monetizing through tokens, through NFTs and a native token. And so that to me is like oh my gosh, an incredible way to monetize your open source project. And yeah, so what we've seen already in these short few months is people are already building new kind of assets and things within the game, which is incredible to have that in such a short period of time. And the team is super dedicated, super smart, and they really have like the ethos that we love, which is like, we are trying to make money, of course, like we're investors, but at the end of the day, like we are true believers in this stuff, in decentralization, in crypto, and in the metaverse, right? So to find founders that kind of connect with us on that level is just even more exciting, because it's like they're smart, they're dedicated, whatever, like, great, but to have that ethos there is also essential. And so yeah, Nine Chronicles is a pretty it's a pretty kind of, right now, it's not a very intense RPG or kind of super in-depth game. It's pretty simple on the surface right now, but they're constantly working and constantly adding more stuff to make it more in-depth and to make it more, if you look at Axie, like Axie's actual gameplay is pretty basic, but they're adding land gameplay, they're adding all these things to add more depth to it. And so that to me is something that's super exciting. So that's Nine Chronicles. Another one, it was not really a game per se, but Nifty Islands. Nifty Islands is a really cool virtual world project that's coming out, and what I love about them is that everyone that signs up, you get an island right away. So it's not like so right away you're suddenly in the game. You can participate fully, because one problem that I've seen with a lot of these virtual worlds that exist so far, which I think is great for them, but I think for the long term growth is difficult, is that there's limited supply of land, and that land goes up in value a lot. Where the cheapest piece of land is $1,000, right? And not everyone can afford that. It's a pretty high entry price. So Nifty Islands is great because everyone gets a piece of land to participate, and they can start building and fully have the experience. And kind of going back to that briefly, the virtual land project that are expensive, so to speak, I think that's fine. I think that just like in the physical world, you have Tokyo, you have Paris, you have New York, right? You have different cities with different vibes. And I think that will exist going forward. In the metaverse, there will be that kind of vibe, that the CryptoVoxels vibe, the Decentraland vibe, Somnium Space vibe, Sandbox vibe, right? And so I think that and they'll all kind of interconnect in the future. So I think that yeah. Anyways, I think Nifty Island is great for a multitude of reasons, but one that I love is that it democratizes land ownership, digital land ownership to everyone.
That's a really interesting analogy, comparing the Nifty Islands, like the more accessible land, and then the Tokyo, Paris, New York, London, cooler place, not cooler, just more expensive, exclusive places like that. Where would you begin then in the metaverse of virtual land? I don't know if you can say that, metaverse of virtual land. Right now, what are the virtual lands you're most excited for and you think will hold a 5-10 year time horizon going forward, and why as well? What informs these decisions?
Okay, so I'm excited about all four of the major ones right now: Decentraland, Cryptovoxel, Sound New Space, Sandbox. I think they're all great for their own different reasons. Soundium is really focused on VR and great visual experiences, and really kind of you can like feel that you're there, which is awesome. Sandbox is focused on gaming. They're kind of like the Roblox of crypto right now. Cryptovoxels is like this really cool kind of Minecraft-like experience where you can go in there and kind of easily build stuff, and there's a really great community there. Decentraland is kind of like a mixture of all three of those combined. And so I think that those are all great. And in terms of where I would be deploying capital, is that was your question?
No, specifically where. Well, it could be in a way, but what I meant is more, what do you think is going to hold for a 5-10 year time horizon, and specifically why? What informs these decisions that you think? For example, the big four you just shared. Why do you think they're going to survive?
So yeah, in terms of will they survive, it's really tough for me to say. I would imagine that they would, but in reality, like who knows? Like at the end of the day, we're doing educated guesses, and everything's comparative, right? So those are the big four today. If something launches tomorrow that is like just a 10x better experience than all those combined, then those big four are probably in some trouble, right? So it's tough for me to give that long of a time horizon on those specifically. But yeah, so I think that what excites me about them again is kind of the overall nature of these types of projects. They're essentially social platforms that are user owned and governed. Like that is a really, really cool concept, because it's like, again, it's all about what NFTs are doing more broadly, which is flipping the paradigm of the internet from value extractive of users to value additive. So if I'm in Cryptovoxels, for example, and I'm building a gallery or e-commerce store, I'm adding value to that platform, right? And I'm compensated in theory based off of the increasing price of my land, right? So that to me is like the biggest paradigm shift, and I think it's really easily displayed. Like the whole value and purpose of NFTs are very easily displayed inside these virtual worlds. And of course, there's also the unlimited optionality of what you want to build. So if you want to build an e-commerce store, go do it. If you know how to do like some coding, you can build a mini game, a first-person shooter or whatever. If you want to build a gallery, you can do that. So I love that unlimited optionality, because it allows people to be totally creative. So yeah.
Andrew, thank you for answering these pretty difficult questions in such specific detail. It's hugely appreciated, I think, from everyone listening. I'm going to cool it down with the questions right now and give you a really fun one. What's the coolest thing to happen to you since March? Something that you never in your wildest dreams thought would happen, but has happened due to the crazy market.
The coolest thing? So I think the coolest thing that it's tough. I think that I mean the thesis and everything that I thought was going to happen is playing out. So I wouldn't say that I never thought it was going to happen. I thought it would happen, and I was going to like force it to happen, basically. So that's great. But I would say that some of the people that I look up to the most have been involved in what we're doing, as investors and whatnot. So I think that to me, to be able to talk to some of these people and for them to have faith in me and belief in me of what I'm doing, is like has blown me away. And I thought maybe eventually I'll be able to get to them, but to have it happen so soon, it's really been it's definitely blown my mind and made me feel super humble about kind of what I'm doing basically.
Well, I'm so glad you managed to work with the people you looked up to most in the space. Is there anything you're really excited about in the NFT space that we have not covered in enough detail in this podcast?
Oh man, yeah. So, no, I'm excited about it all. I think that what we're seeing happen, like play out in real time right now, is that we're seeing history play out where the metaverse, finally is emerging. We've been talking about the metaverse and virtual reality and all that stuff since like 1992, essentially, when Snow Crash came out. And Neil Stephenson, the author, he wrote about the metaverse and that concept, and people have been really talking about that. So like from that point, people are like, oh, it's going to happen soon. But now with property rights, which is the basis of all successful economic systems were able to participate in these ecosystems, these digital environments. So it's like, you need to live, work, and play inside the digital environment in order for it to be a metaverse. We had to live because we're spending all of our time online. It's like 10 hours a day on average is our screen time. Play, we're socializing, we're playing games, we're already doing that. But the work part, that was the hard part, because you could add value to Facebook, you could add value to whatever you're doing online, but you couldn't actually. The value was connected to some sort of kind of entity that was in the physical realm. But now we're creating value totally native to the internet, and so yeah, I think that to me is just the most exciting aspect. Like the most exciting thing that's happening is that, okay, the missing piece of the puzzle is finally here. It was NFTs, which we didn't even realize, and now the metaverse can finally come to fruition. And right now we're experiencing that in real time, which to me is crazy. I think we're gonna look back at this time and be like, oh my gosh, like, can you imagine that we were there at that time and participating? So yeah, that to me is just super exciting.
It's exciting to me as well. I feel this keeps happening in I know crypto and NFT space is different, but I feel at its core it comes from the same place, and so many things happen where I'm like, wow, this is a once in a lifetime pivotal opportunity, and then 6 months later, wow, again, this is a once in a lifetime pivotal opportunity. I hope to keep seeing it go like this. I hope to keep being able to listen to your incredible podcast, keeping me up to date with everything I need to know about the NFT space. And Andrew, hopefully in 6 to 12 months, we hop on again and discuss what's been going on in your very successful career in the NFT space. Thank you so much for your time, Andrew.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and definitely looking forward to every time we chat.
Meditators, that is everything from us. I hope you enjoyed another episode of the Market Meditations podcast. This episode was incredible. Andrew always gives the most thought out, detailed answers, and so much actionable information, which I always enjoy. And as Andrew said, it's impossible for any single person to stay up to date with all the opportunities in the NFT space. And our newsletter and podcast recently is taking a very strong focus in the NFT world, simply because it is a fantastic opportunity to make money right now. We've got several guides out. Don't forget to subscribe at 𝐉𝐸𝐴𝐾.substack.com. If you enjoyed this episode, I highly recommend you also check out the first episode we recorded, where he gives a lot of information that holds true today as well.